Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. What's going on, family? We back up in here. How y'all doing? I hope y'all staying warm, especially those who are out there affected by what they call the cyclone bomb, these winter storms that are happening. Um, I know a lot of people in the northeast region are affected. So please, please, please stay safe, stay warm out there. It's cold as hell here in Florida. We having snow flurries outside right now here in Florida. So I know if it's cold as hell here, it's cold as hell everywhere. So please, please, please stay safe, stay inside. If you need to, be warm. Make sure you take care of yourselves. We've got some business to handle today. Y'all know how we do. We got some business to handle because I came across some information that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, but I was like, well, we can go ahead and tear this down together. Persisting ideas of Black inferiority, or they're trying to further push the ideas of Black inferiority, in this case, Black intellectual inferiority. I came across a video, and I'm going to show you that video. I came across a video that inspired this show, that made me want to tackle the subject of dealing with does your race affect your IQ? Do your genes, do your genetics have an effect on your IQ? Furthermore, does Black genetics render a lower IQ? Do white genetics render a higher IQ? But it's a lot of things that we got to deal with before we even deal with that. We got to deal with definitions. We got to deal with where these ideas and stuff came from. It's just everything that goes around these, what we would call pseudoscientific ideas about genetics and intelligence, and actually what goes into intelligence. Like, what is the definition of intelligence? How does a person learn? How does a person's environment play into them learning? So if a person is of the so-called superior race and you put them in an environment and they don't learn anything, will they excel more than the person who's supposed to come from the inferior race, who has learned everything that they need to learn and had the resources? Will the person who's supposed to come from the superior race outperform the person that's supposed to come from the inferior race, just based off of genetics, not access to information, resources, opportunities, all those different things? So this is a lot of stuff that we're getting into today. What's going on, Renee? How you doing? What's going on? Amagene 5296. You says, without the innovations of the Black race, today's quality of life would be sadly lacking. Even basic hygiene was a strange concept. The example, UK to Spain, ancient Egypt ruled the world. Hey, man, so we know what it is. We know what it is, but we just want to make sure that we hammer stuff home around here, tackling these ideas and debunking all these things here. So many people believe this race IQ nonsense. Environmental impact is ignored, and the averages are the most inaccurate part of IQ assessment. Well, inspirational truth, I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate you for your comment. And we get into all of that, man. We get into all that. We finna debunk this stuff left and right. I don't know who Kurt Grimes is, but somebody keep spreading them lies. I don't know how you sleep. Well, Kurt, sometimes I sleep on my back. Sometimes I sleep on my stomach. Sometimes I sleep with the heat on if it's cold outside. Sometimes I sleep under a couple blankets if it's cold outside. If not, I sleep under one blanket. I sleep multiple ways, Kurt. I sleep multiple ways. But of course, I want to give a shout out to all my subscribers, everybody who is subscribed to this channel. I appreciate you. So if you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, right? Comment, and make sure you share this, hit that hype button, and make sure a whole lot of people can get this information. All right. Give a shout out to all my channel members. Thank you to everybody who is a member of this channel. I appreciate you. And if you yourself want to become a channel member, you can go ahead and hit that button right now and become a channel member. All right. You can get yourself some merchandise. You can do all of that here on the Shows of Giants. And I got my merchandise together. So let me go ahead and run my commercial real quick. Terrell, what's going on, my brother? Yeah, Kurt be tripping, man. These people think they got jokes, man. Like, I ain't crazy, man. I'm unhinged up here. I'm crazy too. So let me run my commercial real quick. So I told y'all I was gonna get my merch shop up and running. So I've got it. So I want to show y'all my merch shop. So this is it. So I got some hats. So I got my own The Shoulders of Giants hats available for order. I have shirts. This supposed to be like a canvas, some kind of shirt, jersey shirt. I don't know why they got that design, but it's a jersey shirt. Somebody wanted. Got hoodies, regular shirts, heavy, what they call it, the heavy tee, tees for men's, unisex tees for women. Everything. I got a mug. I gotta get this mug too. But this is the merch that I have available. See, I got my mug. I have my hats, and I have my apparel available. And all of that is, the links and stuff are below and connected to the video. So I got my merch shop up and running. Been working on that for a minute in the background to get my merch shop up and running. So I got it up and running. So if you want to support the channel, get you some merch, it's all available. Links below and links attached to the video. Yeah. So please support the channel. See, Inspiration of Truth, you jumping ahead, my brother. You jumping ahead. Nah, I'm playing with you. Nah, I appreciate it. Yes, lead and other toxins definitely have an effect on cognitive abilities. They definitely do. We getting into all of that, my brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate you dropping that truth. And in addition to the merch, make sure y'all can get these books. These are 4 of my books that I published already on The Shoulders of Giants. In these volumes, I tell the stories of the sung and unsung heroes of the African diaspora, stories that we don't normally learn in school or anywhere else. And get these, you can see it at my website, scrolling at the bottom of the page, or at the bottom of the screen rather. Volume 1 is North America, Volume 2 is Central America, Volume 3 is South America, Volume 4 is the Caribbean. Once again, the stories of our sung and unsung heroes of the African diaspora. Check them out. All right, so what we getting into? Hold on, lost my place. So, like I said earlier, today we're tackling a claim that has been spread far and wide, right? That's been used for decades to justify racial stereotypes, that Black people have lower intelligence because of our genetics. That these are the lies that white supremacists like to spread, because we know they are the architects of a lot of this pseudoscience and these social sciences that were used to basically experiment on Black people. You've probably heard references to the bell curve or psychologists like Jensen and Rushton, but here's the thing: the majority of credible scientists today reject the idea that there's any meaningful genetic basis for racial differences in IQ. Any scientist that's worth their salt not gonna say that, right? In fact, genetic research shows that while individual differences in IQ within the population are influenced in part by genes, there's no evidence that differences between racial groups are genetic in origin. What we do know from genetics, psychology, and social science research is that environment, access to education, nutrition, stress, and socioeconomic factors have massive effects on cognitive development. So these are the things that we are unpacking today. My claim is environment, access, resources play a greater role on how a person learns, how a person becomes intelligent, and ultimately the outcome of an intelligence test. So a person's intelligence is, the measurement of their intelligence is one thing, but it's a lot more factors that go into it. So my genes don't determine how intelligent I will be. My environment, whether I was exposed to toxins, was I taught anything, were things reinforced, like access, environment, resources, those things play a greater role on my intelligence than my genetics do. So what's going on? What's the code? How you doing? The Black Aboriginal American says the recessive genetic mutated Neanderthal genes are not good for you. Wow. Said, well, as an example, if you are smart and superior, why do you vote for Donald Trump? And even after one disastrous year, you still double and triple down on your mistakes. You are all not racist. What? Who you talking about? Ronald, who you talking about? Who voted for Donald Trump? I'm confused. We confused. But once again, please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share, because we're about to get deep up in this. So the first video, I have 3 videos that we're going over today. The first that's going to set the tone that really made me want to do this show is I'm looking at the Dean Withers YouTube channel, and the title is Racist MAGA Crybaby Gets Destroyed by His Own Source. So this, I guess this suspected white supremacist calls into this show, and it's emphatic that genetics determine IQ, and they get into a back and forth about that. That's the first video. The second video is about the bell curve, which is, and the subtitle is the most controversial book ever in science. And that's by Richard Heyer and Lex Friedman. They're having a conversation. Then the last video is Race and IQ. Sam Harris and Charles Murray set the record straight on intelligence testing. And if you don't know, Charles Murray is co-author of the bell curve, so he's giving his perspective on what they wrote when it came to the bell curve. So says, if that was true, then why do white supremacists fight so hard to obstruct our education? I mean, they be lying. We know they be lying. They be lying. But the thing is, because they have access to what we learn, how we learn, when we learn, and where we learn, they have the ability to program us and construct our thinking, all those things. That so we got to fight back with counter programming. So that's what this channel is: counter programming, telling the truth and exposing the lies to make sure we got access to the information. So that's how we do what we do when we do. Say, we need your help. We are a targeted, tortured individual. We're being tortured by space and military weaponry. Help. Gloria Wellburn says that. Gregory Jones says, has the European accurately determined the intelligence quotient of anyone, including whites? There's a cultural component included in the test that affects outcomes. Hey, they be lying, Gregory. They don't be knowing. They don't be knowing. So, all right. So let's get into this first video. This one is funny, and then we're gonna dive deep. So let's do it. Make sure y'all hit that like button.
George Floyd, he was resisting arrest, right? Oh. He was under the influence of very powerful substances.
Are there substances what killed him?
I think it was a factor, sure.
Not according to the autopsy report.
I don't. And he also
not according to the autopsy report.
A crime, right?
The autopsy report explicitly stated that the levels of the F drug in his system were not high enough to cause an OD. It was obviously the knee on his neck.
Okay, but he was resisting arrest.
If that's true, you can't kill people for resisting arrest. That's called an excessive use of force.
There's reasonable doubt, just like there's reasonable doubt now.
No, that's not reasonable doubt. Name one court that would ever argue or has ever ruled that reasonable cause to kill someone is them resisting arrest.
No. You're misunderstanding. I'm saying the fact that he was fighting with police, that he was under the influence of very powerful substances, that he was allegedly passing counterfeit money, that he'd been in prison multiple times, that he also might have had C-19. These are factors that would cause reasonable doubt as to what unalived him. Now, look, I'm not celebrating.
Wait, how? That was ridiculous. So you're saying because he had C-19 in the past, it's possible that it quickly came back in less than 10 minutes and killed him when a man had a knee on his neck?
No. I mean, this was like when C-19. This was within a couple months of.
Explain the C-19 point. How? So you're saying it wasn't the knee on his neck that killed him? It was.
Well, I think George Floyd might have had C-19 around that time.
Oh, so he just so happened to die from the infection, like the same time the knee was on his neck?
If there's
you're screaming, I can't breathe.
And so what we're going to learn in this exchange is how ignorant people believe lies and narratives without doing any real research. They do half-ass research, believes lies and narratives, or they make up stuff based off of what they thought they read and just go with it. So, you know how they do. Why do real research when you could just believe the lie?
A heavy exertion of fighting with police and trying to resist arrest This all leads into factors of reasonable doubt as to
when he died, he was laying on the ground.
I understand that the exertion prior might have had a
so what exertion?
That he was fighting with police for
how so
30
how was he fighting?
He wouldn't get in the car. He wouldn't comply.
Wait, so him like verbally
I'm wrong?
So him refusing to get in a car killed him because of C-19?
There was a physical altercation.
Oh, so what was a physical altercation?
Several police officers were trying to restrain him and he was fighting with them.
Okay, so fighting restraint killed him?
It could have been a factor, yeah.
How so?
Right, Gregory.
Dude, if somebody is on very powerful substance,
Oh, but wait, we know that the substances weren't a factor because that's what the autopsy report ruled.
I disagree with that.
But wait, so you're saying that you know better than the medical health professionals that perform the autopsy?
My understanding is.
Wait, I just want to clarify. Are you arguing that you know better than the medical health professionals that perform the autopsy?
Maybe.
Okay, so then what was the specific level of the F drug in a system? I have a question. What was the specific level of the F drug in a system?
Hey, Ricardo, them white folks said that their IQ is higher than ours because of their genes. And if the white folks said it, then it got to be true. That's what they want us to believe. That's what they want us to believe. Of course, we know that don't determine IQ, but that's what they want us to believe. But hey,
I don't know.
Oh, but I thought that you said you knew better. But see, that's a fact that they knew that you don't know, therefore they knew better. How could you argue that they were wrong when you don't even know the level of F drug in a system?
Dean, how well did the experts do during C-19, for example?
What experts?
The experts that were telling us not to wear masks, then to wear masks.
Oh, well, I have a question. Were those experts the autopsy examiners?
Trying to change the subject.
Sometimes, okay. But could you agree that we'd have to demonstrate when they are wrong? Point out an issue within their methodology?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, so what was the issue in the methodology of the forensic scientists that determines the level of F drug in a system was not high enough to cause an OD?
But he was also on Beth, right?
Lower levels as well. They ruled that his death was not caused by an OD. So what was the issue with their methodology?
I'm just telling you, there's a combination of.
So what was the issue in their methodology?
Reasonable doubt.
No, because you just agreed in order to question their conclusion, you'd have to be able to identify the issue in their methodology. So what was the issue in their methodology?
I'm just telling you that if
no, I want a yes or no. Can you name an issue in the methodology of the forensic scientists who performed the autopsy on George Floyd?
I'd have to look at the specifics.
So that's not an answer. Yes or no? Can you name an issue in their methodology?
You don't have to be a doctor.
I want an answer. Can you name an issue in their methodology? Is the answer no? Just be honest, John.
That was never my statement.
This is my question. Of course, I want to be your question because I'm asking you it. It's my question, John. Now answer it. Can you identify an issue with the methodology of the forensic scientists that were conducting the autopsy on George Floyd? Yes or no?
Yes. That they're saying that you're telling me that they said. Tell me if I'm wrong. You're telling me that they said for a fact that the substances had nothing to do with his unalivement. I disagree with that.
Oh, but what's the issue with their methodology? Saying that you disagree. Wait, John, I need to make this point clear. Saying that you disagree with their conclusion is not demonstrating an issue within the methodology that yielded said conclusion. Think about it this way. If I'm drafting an argument, premise number one, if your name is John, then you're a dumbass. Premise number two, your name is John. Conclusion, you're a dumbass. If I were to ask you what the issue in this methodology would be, okay, you wouldn't point towards the conclusion of you being a dumbass because that's not the methodology, that's a conclusion. You'd point towards like premise number one. If your name is John, you're a dumbass. That's the issue in the methodology that you'd identify. So now that we understand what it means to point out an issue in one's methodology, okay, don't just deny the conclusion formed by the forensic scientists, but rather point out the issue in the way in which they formed it. So once again, can you identify an issue in the methodology of the forensic scientists that conducted the autopsy on George Floyd?
They would be able. No, they would have no idea what level of exertion he experienced.
Can you or can you not?
Dude, Dean, I'm trying to answer you. And since you mentioned IQ, what do you think determines that? You're telling me I'm low IQ. What determines that,
Let's
Dean?
get to it. Let's get.
I don't know. Your balding head, maybe big ass forehead, John. Your big ass. I think that your big ass forehead determines your low IQ, John.
Well, you know, Dean, the average IQ of American black people is 85. For whites, it's 100. For East Asians, it's 105. In sub-Saharan Africa, it fluctuates between the low 50s and high 70s.
Do you think that?
Causes it, Dean?
Do you think that race determines?
See, I saw the title of this video, and I'm rolling down the street, and I'm watching it, and you know, the back and forth banter. I thought it was funny. Then he got to when the white guy got to calling out. The white guy who called in got to calling out the IQ stuff. That's when my attention was really grabbed. Okay. So he's asserting that we have low IQs, and he is going to link this. He's going to link his conclusion to, I think, a Times article, and I'm waiting on him to mention the article so I can get the article. But this is what grabbed my attention, because the white guy who called in is basically asserting that Black Americans IQs, or black people period, our IQs are lower, and they're lower based off of our genetics. And that's what started me going out in this rabbit hole. He said, I know Ricardo, man. Ricardo, they crazy, man. And yes, Gregory Jones. What Gregory Jones is talking about, Dr. Williams created the bitch test. Dr. Robert Williams created the bitch test, which was our own Black intelligence test. The Black intelligence test of cultural homogeneity. Homogeneity. I know I messed up that word. Homogeneity. So the bitch test back in the 1970s. And yes, Black students who took the bitch test definitely scored very high because it was a culturally competent test. And their environment and the education that they were given prepared them to be able to take that test, which is another indictment on how environment plays more of a factor into intelligence. And there are different types of intelligence. Oh, this is a whole rabbit hole we got to go down. There are very different types of intelligence that are important for the different spheres that you're in. So overall intelligence there's no such thing as overall intelligence. Intelligence is relative. So, but we're getting into it though. So let's do it. Please hit that like button. Can we get these likes up? We got 103 people up in here. Can we get these likes up? We only got 22 likes, and we got 103 people up in this building. Please, that like button is free. Please hit that like button, and let's get these likes up so we can make sure we are more favorable up in this algorithm. Let's go.
Thank you, Don.
The factor.
That's the factor. So, do you think that there's a biological difference between races? And if so, what is a relevant biological difference between races that is relevant towards determining one's IQ?
Of course, it's a factor. It's about 70,000 years.
Answer my question. Answer my question.
You believe in evolution, don't you?
You're shifting the goalposts. What are the relevant biological differences that in reference to one's race that determine one's IQ?
I'm just telling you the IQs that correlate by race.
Okay, that's not an answer to my question. You said that you believe that race is a factor in determining IQ. What fact of race is a factor in determining one's IQ?
You don't know.
I told you different races evolve differently.
What is the?
That's not an answer. Different races evolve differently. Duh. Well, actually, there's only one. When we really get down to it, there's only one race. As far as when we talk about human race, so the human race evolved the way humans evolved. Now, different groups of people adapted to their environment differently because the environments were different. So the environmental response is going to be different depending on where I am. My environmental response in Hawaii would not be the same as my environmental response in Alaska. So yeah, so things that people would need and the way that people would behave and respond to the environment in Alaska would be vastly different than Hawaii, because the environment yields different obstacles and realities. But once again, what we would call intelligence in Alaska, or what we would praise as intelligence and what we would put on put at the top of the pedestal of intelligence in Alaska would probably be irrelevant in Hawaii. Intelligence is relative, but there's only one race, which is the human race. Different groups of people adapt and adapt to their environments and respond to their environments differently depending on the environment that they're in. But there's only one race, so we're not even gonna fall for the little word games and stuff like different races. No. There's only one human race. So, yeah, I'm noticing Dean. I know Dean a fake friend. Yeah, and the caller has been dodging questions the whole time. Now, one thing I did like is Dean held his ass to the fire, though. I do like that Dean held him to the fire.
Difference in the evolution of black people and white people that determined, in accordance with their race, they have a quote-unquote lower IQ, according to you.
White people had to prepare for winters for thousands of years in Europe.
Wait, so you're saying that's a part of your genetic code?
Yes.
Where is it at?
Yeah, dude.
Show it to me.
You don't.
Show. I want you to show me the biological differences, okay, between white people and black people that then lead to black people having a lower IQ, according to you.
Okay, so I told you the average IQ of American black people.
No, that's not an answer to the question, because what I'm asking you for is the relevant biological differences. You have not named a biological difference.
There are none.
Oh, here, there's actually a Time article on this. You want me to pull it up for you? I'm happy.
Yeah, I just want to know what the biological differences.
Well, I told you there's about 70,000 years of evolution.
Okay, but like whatever.
Y'all
Okay,
got-
so you're saying that there's around 70,000 years of evolution. So then your argument would be that 70,000 years of evolution created some relevant biological difference. So what is that relevant biological difference made by the 70,000 years of evolution? That's the question that I'm asking you.
You want me to give you specific genes? Is that what you're asking?
I just want you to tell me what this, what the specific relevant biological difference is.
Back up.
And if that's a gene, then yes. If you're telling me that the relevant biological difference would fall down to genes, then yes, I want you to give me the specific genes.
Dude, I told you that preparing for winter for thousands of years is going to have an effect.
That's more environmental than genetic. That's environmental. That's not a genetic. That's environmental. Once again, Alaska and Hawaii are gonna be two different things, but they're still human beings. They still both have the capacity to learn the same. If you take somebody from Alaska and somebody from Hawaii and put them in the same environment, give them the same opportunities, the same chances, and they both are on the equal plane, both will be able to become as successful as they want to be, because personality has a lot to do with that too. Want to has a lot to do with that. The internal stuff plus the environmental stuff. Come on now. You ain't talking to no fools. But I like the way Dean holding his foot on his neck though.
That's not a biological difference.
That's
Well, I'm so sorry.
environmental,
What my grandparents did is not a biological difference in me.
Well, what do you think?
And you're saying that this is true today. So I want you to tell me, okay, what is the biological difference? How many times do I need to ask the question?
What gave you your white?
I will not accept a question in response to mine. I want an answer to my question, which would be you pointing out the specific relevant biological difference.
I've already given it to you, man.
No, you haven't. You talked about 70,000. Listen to me. You have not. You've tried to give two answers. The two answers, shut up. The two answers that you've tried to give to my question, which is what are the specific relevant biological differences that give black people lower IQs because of their race, according to you. And then your first answer, shut up, John. Your first answer was 70,000 years of evolution. And then your second answer was having to prepare for winter. The reason why your first...
That's an environmental fact. And once again, it's a different level. It's a different type of intelligence or a different need of intelligence that you would need in a place that would have snowy, cold winters than you would need in some place like South Africa or Hawaii or something. But once again, the intelligence is relative. Right, Shane Mona. Intelligence is relative. All human beings have the capacity to be intelligent, and all human beings have the capacity to be stupid. If you take a person from every race and every ethnicity, and you take them and you put them in an environment and give all of them the equal access, equal opportunity, equal resources, equal love, equal praise. You're pouring into all of them, especially with all those external forces, have the ability to become as great as they want to. The only thing that will hold them back at that point is their own personal will. All human beings have the capacity to be brilliant. Race, and genetics don't stop that. Yeah, yeah. Race is racism and the epigenetic memory of those people. Yes, these people are crazy. It's to my if there's no difference in IQ, then explain why whites are doing. I don't know, Jimmy. Maybe something called slavery. I don't know, maybe a 400-year economic head start called slavery. And then something called sharecropping. And then white America had an economic head start. And then every time black people built something, white people destroyed it to help push their economic advantage even further. I don't know, Jimmy. Maybe you don't know how to read, but I know over here we know how to read. So if you go read, then you would know. But if you do think that there's a difference, genetic difference in IQ, and you think that happens like that, then you are the problem. You are the problem. So you know what I'm saying? Because it's not like black people and white people started on equal footing and white people just did exponentially better because black people chose not to. Like when you have something like slavery and free labor for 400 years, you're supposed to have an economic head start. And then when you see other people progressing, when you destroy what they build, you're supposed to maintain your economic head start, Jamie. I don't know. Maybe you tell me, Jamie. Maybe you tell me.
Answer was insufficient is because 70,000 years of evolution would not be the biological difference, but rather under your view, you might think it explains or causes the biological difference. Does that make sense?
This almost feels like a deja vu. Like I was here a few days ago, and this was the point that seemed to be brought up, almost as though it was the same guest too.
That's exactly.
Was it actually?
No, it was a different guest, but that's exactly why I brought you back up, so we could just do this again.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool.
You already know what's going down here, Jade. Literally just copy and paste, rinse and repeat on this idiot.
Sure, I'm cool with that.
So first and foremost, 70,000 years of evolution wouldn't be the biological difference, but under your view may explain it. So tell me what the 70,000 years of evolution caused. That would be the specific biological difference. And then secondarily here, your second argument was white people having to prepare for winter. That's not biological. That's a fact of history, but facts of history aren't biological facts that are true of today. So maybe that would just be another thing. Okay, so you're saying that because white people had to prepare for winter, that it then created this biological difference. So tell me what that biological difference is.
To written language. That has something to do with it too.
Okay, so then what is the difference?
Congratulations to you too, Jimmy.
Well, the IQ difference is about 15.
No. What is a biological difference that you believe creates this IQ gap?
I've already explained this, man. We evolve differently.
But
you haven't,
right? So,
you haven't explained it. But I'm asking you. You're saying that we evolve differently is not a biological difference. That's just simply not a biological difference. Maybe the fact that you think we evolve differently under your view would explain the biological difference, but I want to know what the biological difference is, not what explains it. I want to know what it is.
And to that point, there's more genetic differences between the people of Africa than there are black people and white people in America. And you have presupposed that somehow there's a biological factor at play. I'd like to know how that's the case when there's more difference between black people than there are black and white.
Okay, I asserted that the numbers
everything for Galaxy.
Hey y'all, we just gonna assume Jimmy don't know how to read. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna assume that at this point, on January 31st of 2026, that Jimmy Mags 6516 don't know how to read or don't know how to comprehend the things that he read to ask the questions that he's asking. Because you come to the wrong place to ask stupid ass questions and not have done your own research or read, Jimmy. Because if you go read, you would know the answer to all of that. So yeah. So there you go, Jimmy. You came to the wrong place. Because we got time and we about that action over here. And I don't give a shit. I can teach and hurt your feelings at the same time. So you better put your big boy pants on if you come over here, Jimmy. But back to the subject.
In the U.S., 85 for American
Now you're not answering to what he said. You're not answering to what I said. I repeated this question maybe a billion times. The question is, what are the biological differences between black people and white people that mean black people have a lower IQ in accordance with your view? Then you said 70,000 years of evolution. That wouldn't be the difference. Under your view, that would explain the difference. You said preparing for winter. That wouldn't be the difference. That would explain the difference. And then Jen brought up, well, there's actually more genetic difference between individuals inside of Africa than outside.
Population is older.
And then you just said, oh, well, like lower IQs. So you haven't answered to what the difference is. You've only tried to give explanations for what causes it. So tell us what the difference is and then address Jaden's point. If you don't understand the question, feel free to just say that. I mean, we understand.
No. I'm just looking for this Time article. It has all of this.
Yeah, if you could bring that up,
but just while I'm doing this.
No, not while you're doing it. We're going to wait for you to do it. We're not going to move on. We're not going to change topics. We're not going to pivot. We're not going to deflect. You are going to tell us the biological difference between a black person and a white person that means that black person will have a lower IQ.
John.
Yeah,
do you have that Time article?
No, I'm still looking. I'm there. I'm not going.
It shouldn't take that long, right?
Well, here's the thing. While I'm doing,
no.
We're trying to.
Dude, you're.
And see, this is the problem, because he can the caller can pull that on average people or people who don't do no critical thinking. But people over here who do critical thinking, you got to defend what you say. Like Jimmy, you got to defend what you say. You made the proposition, now you defend it. Now you defend it, Jimmy, because we know the answer to the question. So you tell us the answer, Jimmy. No, don't. And we're going to do them just like you proposed it. You asked why Africa's so far behind. So you tell us why Africa's so far behind, because we know the answer, because we know how to read, Jimmy. So don't try to do that, Jimmy. Be a real one. You pose the question, Jimmy. Answer it, because we know the answer to why Africa is behind. We know. We read The Destruction of Black Civilization on this channel. So you tell us why Africa's, since you are the scholar, since you are the one with the high IQ, you tell us, Jimmy. Because we already know you don't know how to read. But this is the stuff that white people do. This is the stuff that white supremacists do. They take lies, or they take part of a truth and try to stretch it into something even bigger and then try to run with it. And here we go. Jimmy in the comments and the dude calling into the show, because their IQ is higher than ours. They're smarter than us, because they can come over here and teach us about stuff, because it stumps us. We're stumped. And notice Jimmy can't answer nothing. I answer one of Jimmy's questions. Jimmy ain't answer none of my questions. So you know what I'm saying, Jimmy, you must be the dude who called into this show. That's you. So yeah. All right, Jimmy. But yeah, white people spread lies intentionally to make themselves seem superior and to help spread the idea of an inferiority complex. See, Jimmy, I would kick you out. Nah, you white today, Jimmy. Nah, you white today, Jimmy. You white today. Since you want to act like a white boy, you white today, Jimmy. You are white today. Ain't no way you black. You white today. Since you want to act like a cracker, you gonna be white today, Jimmy. Hell yeah. That's how it is. You a white boy today. Jimmy Krakenstein. You a white boy today. Talking about you black. No, the fuck you ain't acting like that. You are black. You are not black. You a white boy. And matter of fact, you a cracker. How about that, Jimmy? You came to the right place. Keep following narratives, and it's gonna have you out in these streets looking stupid, just like this dude on this show. So let's keep going.
Why are you trying to put me in a corner? Why don't you just let me
Wait,
you walked there.
You walked there, my friend. It's your fault.
Look, the IQ in North and
Nope.
South Korea is
No.
Yeah,
You're gonna tell us the very specific. No, you are already losing, and I'm just not allowing you to pivot. You are going to answer the.
Well, see, that is Kenneth. That is a thing about this conversation is the mixture of black and white over the time. Like, you can't even really bring genetics into it like that, because there has been a mixture of black and white over the 400, 500 years. So, like, people even trying to bring that in, it doesn't really hold in the genetic basis because of a lot of the mixture and stuff. So you're right, Keith.
Question.
I've already answered you, man.
No, you've tried to.
You haven't.
No. Well, your answer 5 times was you attempting to explain the cause of the difference, not telling us what the difference is. I want to know what the difference is, not what you think caused it.
And again, pointing to preparation for winter would be an environmental factor, not a biological one. You're arguing on the biological one. And this really is becoming a Mott and Bailey argument. The weak and the better, well, both of them are weak. But you've alternated between environmental factors being preparation for winter and some kind of genetic variance, which you've yet to demonstrate as being correlated to IQ.
No, do you think? All right.
Oh nope! I want to know what. I'm sorry, dude. I'm
You're
not.
such a pussy, dude.
You need to give me the biological
What you
difference.
Dude, look.
He can't. He can't
I'm looking
get
for this.
biological
So then
difference.
keep looking for it.
The difference. He can't
Okay,
get the difference.
I'm staying on. I'll just mute and I'll stay on.
Good boy.
The problem with this caller is, like, you are trying to repeat something that you haven't even learned. You can't even find your source. You don't even know where your source is. You haven't even learned the source. You came across and you're just trying to repeat it. And you haven't even fully internalized and digested and thought about it critically. That's the problem with a lot of people in our society. They come across a piece of information and they don't understand it. They can't articulate it. They haven't processed it. So here we are, just saying a whole bunch of stuff. Hey, fam B, I appreciate it. And you're a woke loser as well. So thank you for hanging out with woke losers, and appreciate the comment. So, and there go Jimmy, y'all.
John,
I found it.
You did? Okay.
I found it.
Time.
Time.
Yeah. Well, no, just tell me it.
Okay, so it's what science says about race and genetics.
Well, that's not time, but okay.
No, it's time. It's by Nicholas Wade, May 14th of 2014.
okay, so somewhere in this article, you're telling me that I'm going to find the difference genetically between black people and white people that lead to black people having a lower IQ in accordance with your view. So where do I find that inside of this article? No, I have it open up. Just tell me tell me what paragraph, what section.
Looks like the second paragraph.
All right.
Okay, the second paragraph. In the decades since decoding the human genome, a growing wealth of data has made clear that these two positions, never at all likely to begin with, are simply correct. Indeed, there's a biological basis for race, and it is now beyond doubt that the human evolution is a continuous process that has proceeded vigorously within the last 30,000 years, and almost certainly through very recent evolution, is hard to measure, throughout the historical period up until present day. Nowhere, nowhere, have I, in that paragraph, does it tell me what the biological difference is that gives black people lower IQs. So you have still failed to answer the question.
Oh, I disagree, Dean. Let's just keep reading it.
New analysis of the human genome has established that human evolution has been recent, copious, and regional. Biologists scanning the genome for evidence of natural selection have detected signals of many genes that have been favored by natural selection in recent evolutionary past. No less than 14% of the human genome, according to one estimate, has changed under this recent evolutionary pressure. Nowhere inside of that pressure did it tell me what the biological difference is between black people and white people that gives black people a lower IQ. Analysis of genomes around the world established that there's a biological basis for race, despite the official statements on the contrary of leading social science organizations. An illustration of this point is a fact that with a mixed race population such as African Americans, geneticists can now track along an individual's genome and assign each segment to an African or European ancestor, a exercise that would be impossible if race did not have some basis in biological reality. Once again, this still not inform me on what the biological difference would be between black and white people that gives black people a lower IQ.
You're also pointing to Ashkenazi. Wait, excuse me. You're pointing to Ashkenazi Jewish people being the only demographic in which IQ seems to be referenced throughout this article. The article doesn't discuss IQ differences between any of the major racial groups, be they black, white, Asian, or anything else, or link race.
This article and nothing shows that there are genetic or biological differences in IQ. There are environmental differences, there are access differences, there's learned differences, all those things that goes into how a person learns. People, how do people learn? We're talking about information that is learned. How do you measure intelligence? How does one become intelligent? What is intelligence? What is learning? Am I intelligent just because I was born with a specific set of genes, or do I have to learn certain things and be able to apply those things to show how intelligent I am? But don't I have to learn things, but don't I have to have access to information and resources and those things to be able to learn? So yeah, like you can find a difference in IQ between races, but the argument is not if there are differences. The argument is there genetic or biological difference? And the answer is no. It's environmental differences. And yes, if I come up in an environment that has less access and resources and opportunities than the person who comes up in an environment that has more, and I'm affected by environmental toxins and all those things, yeah, it's a good chance my IQ could be lower. But once again, like I said earlier, you take people from different races and put them on equal planes and equal environments with equal access, equal information, equal resources, equal pouring into, and both of those beings can be as great as they want to be. The only thing that will hold them back is their own personal choices. That's the only thing that will hold them back. There's no biological base for IQ. It's all about access. It's all about what is learned. We're talking about information, things that are learned. And remember, intelligence is relative. If you don't think intelligence is relative, well, that shows us that you might not be a critical thinker. So please hit that like button.
Broadly to these IQ gaps. What it argues and what it focuses is the view that race is purely a social construct and that human evolution stopped before historical times.
Okay, but this article is saying the opposite.
Okay, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't reference any of the racial groups with the IQ differences between them.
Just read in the second paragraph that it's biological.
Where does it reference IQ points between the different?
Yeah, like nowhere in this. Yeah, that's a better question. Right. Where in this article does it tell us what the biological differences between black and white people that give black people a lower IQ?
Ask me what the genes are, and I'm giving you the support for it.
So what are the genes?
That's not what I asked you.
It said in the last 30,000 years. Yeah, we'll keep.
What are the?
I appreciate the $4.99 super chat from Inspirational Truth supporting the work. I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you very much.
Look at all this money, homie. I got all this money, homie.
Man, we got to keep spreading this truth, man. We got to keep spreading this truth. We know we got a couple rabble rousers in the comments, but it's all good. We're gonna keep them around just to learn them something today. I know they're not opening up their minds. I know they came to try to rabble rouse, but they came to the right one. I'm about that action, and we about that action over here. So we finna hit them over the head with this knowledge. So hey, Jimmy and Fam 66, y'all finna learn something today. You're gonna get embarrassed, you're gonna get your feelings hurt, but you are gonna learn something today. And you talking about cognitive training does not transfer. We can tell. Genes.
What are the genes?
What I just said, right?
What are the genes?
What I just said, yes. that
Okay,
race
so
is purely a social construct and human evolution
But
stopped
it's
before
not. But
historical
it's not a
times.
social construct. You want me
Race
to prove
is-
to
And
you
what
how
is
it's
it?
not a social
No, I don't want you to prove that race is not a social construct before you tell me what the biological difference is between black and white people that give black people a lower IQ.
This is why the right thinks you're crazy, Dean. You think that
Say whatever you want.
gender-
Say whatever you want.
You can't even have a real conversation with this caller. He doesn't even understand that race, the concept of race itself is a social construct. It's a social construct. The concept of race, concept of different races, other than the human race, is a social construct that was really. Differences in groups of people have always existed. People could always see the differences, but ideas and concepts, especially these white supremacist racist ideas that come around race and racism, started in the 1600s and was solidified in the 1800s. So, race is a social construct. The concept of race was created to justify slavery. The concept of race was created to justify slavery because they had to justify treating beings who they classified as less than human the way that they were treating them. Because if they classified them as humans, then now you got to come up with a whole other explanation of why you're treating human beings like this. And the explanation was, well, these are a lower level of human beings. So we create the concept of race. The concept of race itself is racist. It's racism. It's the classification of people by their really they say by genetics, but it was by physical characteristics, to say that this is why we can treat these people like this. So
Oh, bro, listen, say whatever you want. Crash the fuck out, John. It's not going to change the fact that I have a wall of inevitability built around me, and it is coming swiftly to you. You have to tell me what the biological difference is between black and white people.
I need to read this.
That gives black people
says,
a lower IQ.
It says in this article, a long-standing orthodoxy among social scientists holds that human races are a social construct and have no biological basis. It immediately follows this argument up by saying, analysis of genomes found across the world establishes that there is a biological basis despite the official statements. Overall position ranks it as an orthodoxy, saying that it's purely a social construct, not of a biological basis.
So what's the difference, John?
Here's where explaining Ashkenazi IQ. You want me to read you that?
I want the difference between white people and black people that give black people a lower IQ.
Well, you want me to read this to you? I'll read
I just want to know what the relevant biological difference is between black people and white people that give black people a lower IQ. What is it, John?
I told you about 70,000 years of evolution.
No, that would be in accordance with your view the cause of the difference, not the difference in of itself.
Dean, I've given you my best answer.
Then you've not given me an answer. Then you've not given me an answer. Like if I were to ask
you, you don't like the answer.
If I were to ask you specifically what speed is this ball moving at, and then you were like, "Well, I kicked the ball."
Cyan, what's going on?
That wouldn't be an answer to the question of at what speed the ball is moving at. Sure, you'd be describing why it's moving at the speed it is, but you wouldn't be telling me the speed it's moving at specifically. The question I'm asking you is, what are the specific biological differences between black people and white people that give black people a lower IQ? Response, you've said you think it's 70,000 years of evolution. 70,000 years of evolution is not a biological difference. 70,000 years of evolution could explain a biological difference. So I want you to tell me what that difference is.
I'll bet you didn't know. Winter is one of the best times to care for your trees. Here's why.
It's in frontal cortex and
front. The front. Do you mean the prefrontal cortex?
Yeah, prefrontal cortex.
Okay, so now what are the specific differences? What are the very specific differences between the prefrontal cortex of a black person and a white person?
This is why
working memory is not the most important part of intelligence. All right, whatever.
This is why part of the reason black people are more.
No. What are the specific biological differences between the prefrontal cortex of a black person and a white person?
Well, black people have higher, on average, serum testosterone levels, right? So
And
this
We're
is
talking
going to
about
factor
brain
in-
differences,
this is
right?
well, I know, but it's going to affect impulse control.
You're not
We were
answering my
talking about
question.
differences in brain
So what are these specific differences, okay, between the prefrontal cortex of black people and white people?
You don't know.
Dean, I'm answering you, man. I'm telling you the way that testosterone levels on average in black people are actually higher. So this is going to happen because prefrontal cortex is what regulates impulse control.
So do you think do you think that black women
This
are
is the
more intelligent than
difference.
white men since black women have a lower level of testosterone than white men?
No.
why
Okay. Wait, why not? Under your view, why wouldn't that be implied?
No, but I was talking specifically about impulse control.
Okay, so you think that black women have more impulse control than white men?
That's a good question, actually.
Wait, it's directly implied by your logic. Okay, so if you don't know, right, that black women have more impulse control than white men, even though they have lower levels of testosterone, even if it were to be true that black men would have higher levels of testosterone than white men, under your view, you'd still not know if they have more or less impulse control.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to. I would probably say no on average because the lower IQ actually.
Sorry, Jaden. I know that you wanted to get it. I'm not decided to kick him.
Oh, no problem.
So that's getting us started. That's getting us started. So let's deal with some definitions. I said we got to deal with some definitions here because there's a lot of people in here. I'm looking at these comments. There's a lot of people in here that are just talking. So we got to deal with some definitions. Because if we ain't dealing with definitions, people just talking stuff. I see somebody talking about working memory and all this stuff here when we're talking about intelligence. So let's deal with some definitions, right? We got to ask more basic questions before we talk about race. What is intelligence? Like, what is intelligence? Once you understand how intelligence forms, how learning works, and how IQ tests actually measure the idea that the entire groups are genetically inferior collapses under its own weight, right? Because we need definitions. We need to define things. We just talking, right? So what is intelligence? Let's start with defining what intelligence is. So what I have here, what is intelligence? General definition. Intelligence is the capacity to learn from experience, reason and solve problems, adapt to new situations, understand complex ideas, and apply knowledge effectively in real world context. And read it again. Intelligence is the capacity to learn from experience, reason and solve problems, adapt to new situations, understand complex ideas, and apply knowledge effectively in real world context. So it's more than just a working memory. The definition comes from mainstream psychology, APA style, not race science, right? It comes from, this is a psychological definition of intelligence. Intelligence is not a single thing. It's not fixed. It's not independent of context, right? So intelligence is relative. Intelligence will be measured by, once again, at the end of it, the end all be all of what you can get to to really measure intelligence is how the information is applied in real world context to get desired outcomes. Because you can remember all the information you want to remember, but if you can't apply that information, your ass ain't intelligent. You just remembered a bunch of stuff. Because now we're talking about intelligence versus memory. You can remember all you want. If you can't apply it and have a real world outcome, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Talking about speed don't matter. If you can't get an outcome from the information that you have gained, you are not intelligent. I don't care how many facts you remember, you are not intelligent. So IQ, so the definition of IQ. Intelligence quotient is a standardized test designed to estimate performance on scientific cognitive tasks compared to others in a reference population. It measures test performance, not innate worth or total intelligence. Scores are normalized, so the average is 100. It is relative, not absolute. Intelligence, once again, is relative. It's not absolute. And if that's what you're saying directed to me, prove me wrong. So the IQ test actually measures well pattern recognition, symbol manipulation, vocabulary strongly linked to education and culture, working memory, and processing speed. What Jimmy and what the other folk is talking about, right? All the ideas of what they think intelligence really is. Speed does, okay. What IQ test does not measure, what it doesn't measure, and speed matters. How does speed matter? Give me a real world example of how speed matters in intelligence. Speed in what? You can learn this fast, but can you apply it fast? Can you apply it fast? We're talking about human intelligence. How does a human be? Because you have all this information. Can you apply it? How does speed go into that? Tell me, how does speed go into that? He said, Jimmy told me he just proved me wrong. He said it's not true. Is artificial intelligence intelligent? It's programmed. Artificial intelligence is programmed. It's programmed to spit out the information that is embedded within it. It's not intelligent. It's only intelligent when it start to become sentient. But it's programmed. Duh. It's programmed. Somebody's putting the information into it. It's not. So never mind. Hey, never mind. Jimmy don't even understand what application of information means. Let me continue my reading. So what IQ test does not measure well is creativity, emotional intelligence, wisdom, moral reasoning, cultural intelligence, musical, athletic, or artistic ability, practical problem solving, and lived environments. This matters because the bell curve treats IQ as if it equals raw brain power, which is scientifically inaccurate. And I do want to say, because a part of this will be focused around the bell curve, and the bell curve is not the explicit source that says that race determines IQ, but bell curve is one of the documents or one of the pieces of information that was used by white supremacists to help justify that. Kind of like some of Darwin's information. It didn't explicitly say this, but it was used to justify. So how does a person become intelligent? AI is programmed to do all of that stuff, man. It's programmed. Food is programmed. It's programmed. It's designed to do that. It's programmed. So how does a person become intelligent? Intelligence is developed. It's not simply inherited. Intelligence is developed. Sion, he don't understand. They don't understand. Jimmy and FAM and fam, they really think they cooking up in here. Y'all are loud and wrong in public. Like you got all these people in here telling you that you wrong, and y'all just stepping on the gas and being even wronger. So core mechanisms of developing intelligence. One is learning, being able to learn, the ability to practice, the ability to have feedback. Motivation goes into learning, exposure to challenge, an opportunity to apply knowledge. You are not smart if you can't apply the information you have. A human being. And this fool is trying to compare humans to robots. We're talking about the difference in races, and this fool is trying to compare humans to a programmable machine, to something intangible, something immaterial. Well, I ain't gonna say it's immaterial, but it's something material, something that has no soul. And he's trying to compare human beings to robots that is programmed. Jimmy, you've moved the goalpost so far. Won't you just stop talking? You've moved the goalposts. We're not even talking about black and white no more. You talking about robots. You talking about goddamn shit. I'm calling it a robot, damn it. It's gonna be a robot today. You talking about shit that is not human beings. Fucking robots. You're not talking about, you've moved the goalposts. You've moved the goalposts. It doesn't matter. You've moved the goalposts because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand what intelligence is. You don't understand what learning is. You're just like the white dude. You probably are the white dude who called into that show. Because you don't understand this stuff. You don't understand, once again, core mechanisms of developing intelligence is the ability to learn, having access to information where you can actually learn, having the environment where you can practice what you've learned, then giving feedback on what you've practiced from what you've learned, having the motivation to keep going after giving feedback, having the exposure to challenge and the opportunity to apply the knowledge. If you're not having those steps, you're not learning. To just gather information and hold on to it and not be able to apply it or have any real outcomes of it doesn't make you intelligent. It just means you acquired information, but you're not intelligent because you don't even know how to use the information. A stimulated brain grows more capable. A deprived brain does not reach its potential. Once again, that will be one of the things that will be the difference in an intelligent and the person who's not intelligent is a stimulated brain versus a deprived brain. AI has the ability to learn because it was programmed to do so, fool. Because it was programmed to do so. But anyway, just admit you don't know what you're talking about. That's why you move the goalposts. So how does learning actually work? Learning is a biological process. Learning involves strengthening neural connections, creating neural pathways, and reinforcing pathways through repetition and use. This means learning is experience dependent. Learning is experience dependent. Skills unused weaken. Skills practiced grow stronger. Language and exposure in early childhood is critical to the development of the brain. At my job, there's a matter of fact, there's a whole national conference called 0 to 3, who's dedicated to the learning and the maturation of babies between the ages of 0 and 3, because they understand what all goes into the development of the brain and how the baby learns. There's whole science behind this on how the actual baby learns. So it's critical that they learn during these stages, and they have to go through the rigor. They have to be exposed. So like if I have a woman who's pregnant versus a guy who has a woman who's pregnant, me and my woman, we read to the baby while the baby's in the womb, and we continue to read and teach the baby outside of the womb. But the other couple does the exact opposite. Our baby will have a greater advantage as far as to have access to information and will be considered more intelligent. But if that other baby so happens to get access and opportunities and other things, they can close the gap. All you have to do is being put into the right environment and given the right chance to actually practice those skills to grow stronger. Key learning inputs, once again, is language exposure. Early childhood is critical. Quality of instruction. The people who are giving the instructions, do they know what they're doing? Emotional safety, nutrition and sleep, stress levels, all those things go into learning, right? Chronic stress literally impairs memory formation and reasoning, which is critical when discussing oppressed populations. Oppressed populations will always have less access to information and resources. It's not because they are born incapable, it's a lack of access. It's a lack of access. People be out here bullshitting, man. They be lying, they be bullshitting, man. Don't fall for the lies. I'm telling you, all we got to do is read. This information is out here. Just read. People be wilding. My brother Jeff is in the building. What's going on? Ask a Brother podcast. What's going on, my brother? How you doing? How you doing, man? Y'all make sure y'all support that brother. He's doing a lot of good work over there. He's doing God's work over there at Ask a Brother podcast. Y'all make sure y'all check him out. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. He growing over there. You growing real fast, my brother. You doing your thing. Make sure y'all check him out. Jeff over there at Ask a Brother podcast. Let's go. So number 5 is the role of environment and intelligence, right? Environment plays a massive role in cognitive development, right? Environmental factors that shape measure intelligence. It's the quality of schooling. Me and my pops were just on the phone talking about this earlier, right? We're talking about the property taxes and how they shape school districts and all those things there, and how they like to cut off access to information by redrawing these lines and redistricting these lines. So the schools that are close to the poor neighborhoods, they barely get the resources that they need. And then the schools that are within the more well-to-do neighborhoods get more of the resources. Access matters. Teacher expectations matter. Quality of schooling, teacher expectations, they matter. Access to books and technology. Family income, that matters. Neighborhood safety. Nutrition. We just talked about, my brother just talked about inspirational truth, matter of fact, talked about it. The ingestion of lead and toxins and poisons. My good brother Patrick always talk about it. Especially we talked about it more since the Flint, Michigan situation, about all those people who are exposed to lead, their cognitive abilities have been distorted. These things, these environmental factors, they matter. Chronic stress and discrimination. People who have high cortisol levels since they were in the womb. It matters. It matters. It's not because a person is black. It's not because a person is white. It's not because a person is Asian. I remember when we were young, they used to tell us that Asians are smarter than us, and we used to believe them until I started really paying attention. One of the first things I thought was, Asians are so smart. Why they can't drive? Like they can do they can't do simple stuff. You don't know how to come to a complete stop, put your blinker on, left turn and turn left. You put your blinker on and turn like, and so that's what made me start really reevaluating what intelligence was and started really looking at, hold up, look at how much Black and African people have contributed to the world. Look at how much we've contributed to society. Look at how much we've contributed to civilization. Look how much of the world that has been shaped. Look how much of the world that has been made comfortable because of us. Like we have the joke that one of the greatest things the white people created was the patent office, because it wasn't the inventions, and we can see it, y'all talking about it in the comments and all those things. We have contributed greatly to society. The role of personality that goes into intelligence. Personality traits strongly influence how intelligence is expressed and measured. Key traits that affect cognitive performance is curiosity. Curiosity drives learning. You have to give a damn. You have to want to know. I am driven by the question why. It drives me. Conscientiousness, persistence, and problem solving. If I start something, I have to finish it. I have to get to the end of it if I start it. Openness to experience, intellectual exploration, being willing to experience new things, to have that neuroplasticity, like stretched and exercise, right? Confidence, test performance, and risk taking. The more you do something, the more confident you would get. And the more confident you would get, the better at it you would get. And that goes to resilience, your response to failure. All these things go into measuring the person's intelligence. And remember, intelligence is relative to the environment that you're in. The intelligence that you would need as a mechanic is not the same type of intelligence that you would need as, let's say, a person who runs a Fortune 500 company, a marketing company. The intelligence a mechanic would need is not the same type of intelligence a marketing person would need. The intelligence that a person who works in hospitality, the intelligence they would need would be different from a person who works in welding. The intelligence that a psychologist would need would be different from the intelligence of a mathematician. intelligence is relative. And anybody who think that you can just bottle it up and put it all in one thing, just this one thing is intelligence, they're showing you right there that they have no idea what intelligence is. But they keep trying to tell us for centuries. They keep trying to convince us black people, and just like these folk in the comments keep trying to convince us that we're not intelligent because we black. All right. But let's get to this second video and talking about this bell curve. Let's get more into this bell curve, because this bell curve, once again, I'm not saying the bell curve explicitly said that we are inferior because of the race, but the bell curve is one of the guess you can say the academic instruments that was used. So let's get it. Please hit that like button. Please hit that like button.
There's a book called The Bell Curve, written in 1994, written by psychologist Richard Herrnstein and political scientist Charles Murray. Why was this book so controversial?
This is a fascinating book. I know Charles Murray. I've had many conversations with him.
Yeah, what is the book about?
The book is about the importance of intelligence in everyday life. That's what the book is about. Mm-hmm. It's an empirical book. It has statistical analyses of very large databases that show that essentially IQ scores or their equivalent are correlated to all kinds of social problems and social benefits. And that in itself is not where the controversy about that book came.
Switch to TurboTax.
Hey Jimmy, what's your definition of intelligence? I know you made your own definition up, Jimmy. What's your definition of intelligence?
The controversy was about one chapter in that book, and that is a chapter about the average difference in mean scores between Black Americans and white Americans. Mm-hmm. And these are the terms that were used in the book at the time and are still used to some extent. And historically, or really for decades, it has been observed that disadvantaged groups score on average lower than Caucasians on academic tests of mental ability, and especially on IQ tests.
Disadvantaged groups. So you're talking about groups that are not in a position of power or in a position of privilege to have access to the information or the resources that a group of the same way that white people would have, because those groups are not in the same position of power as white people are.
And the difference is about a standard deviation, which is about 15 points, which is a substantial difference. In the book, Herrnstein and Murray,
Jimmy, you're telling us that intelligence is simply the collection of information. You don't have to know how to do nothing with the information. Do you have to do something with the information, Jimmy? So you're telling us that intelligence is just having information. So yes or no, Jimmy, yes or no. Do you have to be able to do something with the information you collect? Do you have to be able to have some kind of tangible outcome with the information you have, or is it simply just collecting information?
This one chapter assert clearly and unambiguously that whether this average difference is due to genetics or not, they are agnostic. They don't know. Moreover, they assert they don't care, because you wouldn't treat anybody differently knowing that if there was a genetic component or not, because that's a group average finding. Every individual has to be treated as an individual. You can't make any assumption about what that person's intellectual ability might be from the fact of an average group difference. They're very clear about this. Nonetheless, people took away. I'm going to choose my words carefully because I have a feeling that many critics didn't actually read the book. They took away that Herrnstein and Murray were saying that blacks are genetically inferior.
So from what I've seen surrounding and the research that I've done surrounding the bell curve, I would have to agree with what the guy on the screen is saying, that yes, they took the information from the bell curve and ran with it and went with the assertion that blacks are genetically inferior overall and inferior intellectually. So even this guy is saying that is bull hockey. Like, Jimmy, I don't know what you were talking about. Even this dude on the screen don't agree with you. No, I didn't ask you. I was specific in what I asked you. Once you collect the information, do you have to do something with the information? Do you have to do something with the information that you collect, Jimmy? I was specific in what the hell I said. Don't act stupid. You and everybody else on here heard what I said. You said that intelligence is the collection of information. This is what you said, the collection of information. So do you have to be able to do something with the information or not to be considered intelligent? Don't skirt the question. Don't skirt around. Don't move the goalposts. Don't try to change it. The collection of information is what you said. So with this collection of information, do you have to be able to do something with this information or not to be considered intelligent? Answer the question. You don't. So once again, Jimmy, you are not intelligent. And my conclusion that you cannot read, which I said earlier, is true. If you think that you don't have to do anything with information to be intelligent, you are a fool. On with the show. You will no longer be recognized in this show because you are a fool.
That was the take-home message. And if they weren't saying it, they were implying it because they had a chapter that discussed this empirical observation of a difference. And isn't this horrible? And so the reaction to that book was incendiary.
What do we know about, from that book and the research beyond,
This game
about race differences and intelligence?
Right,
It's
Ricardo.
still the most incendiary topic in psychology. Nothing has changed that. Anybody who even discusses it is easily called a racist just for discussing it. It's become fashionable to find racism in any discussion like this. It's unfortunate.
Fam, you stupid too. You sitting there agreeing with Jimmy. Not even the white dude on the screen agrees with you. Not even the white man who wrote the bell curve agrees with you. You and Jimmy are fools. Stop talking out loud in public. You're making yourself and your families look bad. Please continue to hide behind profiles with no pictures, because you are making yourselves and your families and any educational environment that you came up in, any environment that you grew up in, y'all making it look bad. You all, clearly your parents didn't read to you when you were young. You have no idea what information or intelligence is. This fool said you can just collect information and not do anything with it, and that makes you smart. You are dumb.
The short answer to your question is there's been very little actual research on this topic since
since the bell curve.
Since the bell curve, even before. This really became incendiary in 1969 with an article published by an educational psychologist named Arthur Jensen. Let's just take a minute and go back to that to see the bell curve in a little bit more historical perspective. Arthur Jensen was a educational psychologist at UC Berkeley. I knew him as well. And in 1969 or 68, the Harvard Educational Review asked him to do a review article on the early childhood education programs that were designed to raise the IQs of minority students.
And see, fam, you don't even understand the difference between memorizing and learning. You have no clue what the difference between memorizing and learning. We can't even talk.
This was before the federally funded Head Start program. Head Start had not really gotten underway at the time Jensen undertook his review of what were a number of demonstration programs. And these demonstration programs were for young children who are around kindergarten age, and they were specially designed to be cognitively stimulating, to provide lunches, do all the things that people thought would minimize this average gap of intelligence tests. There was a strong belief among virtually all psychologists that the cause of the gap was unequal opportunity due to racism, due to all negative things in the society. And if you could compensate for this, the gap would go away. So early childhood education back then was called literally compensatory education. Jensen looked at these programs. He was an empirical guy. He understood psychometrics. And he wrote it was over 100-page article detailing these programs and the flaws in their research design. Some of the programs reported IQ gains of, on average, 5 points, but a few reported 10, 20, and even 30-point gains. One was called the Miracle in Milwaukee. That investigator went to jail ultimately for fabricating data. But the point is that Jensen wrote an article that said, look, the opening sentence of his article is classic. The opening sentence is, I may not quote it exactly right, but it's, we have tried compensatory education and it has failed. And he showed that these gains were essentially nothing. You couldn't really document empirically any gains at all from these really earnest efforts to increase IQ. But he went a step further, a fateful step further. He said, not only have these efforts failed, but because they have had essentially no impact, we have to re-examine our assumption that these differences are caused by environmental things that we can address with education. We need to consider a genetic influence. Well,
the question is, why did those efforts fail, though? Because they didn't tell us why the efforts failed. So you just automatically go to a genetic functioning or genetic dysfunction or genetic reasoning for his so-called for this particular person that he's looking at, Jensen, for their particular research and seeing that compensatory education didn't help improve IQ. Well, you have to give us more specifics on why this stuff didn't work. And we're talking about intelligence is contextual and relative. Intelligence is relative to environment. It's relative to cultural demands. It's relative to what society values. What counts as intelligence in one society may not be rewarded in another. Intelligence is not just what the brain can do. It's what the environment allows the brain to practice, right? So when people claim that group X has a lower IQ because of intelligence, remember, they're ignoring that IQ itself is not pure intelligence. Intelligence is developed. Tests reflect culture and access. Environment shapes brain development. Race is not a biological category and genetics is not. So the claim isn't just offensive, it's scientifically incoherent to try to use this IQ stuff. But once again, the bell curve was used to justify white people going out saying that black people have low IQ. So the bell curve, Intelligence and Class Structure in American Life, is a 1994 book by Richard J. Herrnstein and Charles Murray. exploring the role of intelligence measured largely by IQ tests in shaping social outcomes in the United States, education, crime, income, welfare, all those things. It's nearly 900 pages long and blends data analysis with social theory. The core claims of the bell curve is IQ matters in society. The authors argue that IQ correlates with various life outcomes like job performance, earnings, and social behavior. I do believe that a person's the intelligence that a person have will determine the job performance, the earnings, the social behavior, all those things, depending on how they were programmed and how they were acculturated. Higher IQ levels tend to have more success in education, income, and social status, depending on how you're looking at intelligence. Number two, IQ tests reflect some real cognitive differences. The book claims that IQ tests are meaningful measures of general cognitive ability, which is predictive in certain outcomes across populations. That's what it's claiming. It also says IQ has a genetic component. The authors accept mainstream psychology findings that intelligence is at least partly heritable. On this point, they largely echo existing twin adaptation studies showing some genetic influence on individual differences. Some genetic influences. The bell curve presented data showing that the average IQ scores differ among racial and ethnic groups, and a small piece of that was asserting to that. An example is Black Americans had lower average scores compared to whites in some data sets, but what were the reasoning for those lower test scores? This was drawn from existing large-scale surveys and IQ test norms. But then this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the development of the bitch test, because we saw that the cultural pieces of these tests really did matter. But when it comes to different aspects of IQ or how IQ is measured, once again, if I'm studying to be an astrophysicist, I need a different type of intelligence than I would need if I was a mechanic or if I was even a chef, a master chef. It's a different level of intelligence I would need as a master chef than I would need as an astrophysicist, right? So hereditary versus environment, right? Contrary to headlines, the authors did not make a definitive claim that racial IQ differences are genetically caused. In fact, they explicitly acknowledge that the evidence on genetics versus environmental causes of group differences was inconclusive. Both hereditary and environment are likely involved, but not a solid scientific estimate of their relative contribution. So even in the book, The Bell Curve, even though people took what the book said and ran with it, even in the book, they're not explicitly saying that race and genetics determine intelligence. Right. But people took the information and ran with it. And we can see they took the information and now they out here looking crazy, loud and wrong. Yet, because they discussed the possibility that genes could play a role, and because they did not firmly exclude it, many readers interpreted the book as asserting a genetic cause. So why was the book so controversial, right? Several aspects of the bell curve sparked intense debate. Many psychologists argue that IQ tests do not capture the full complexity of cognitive ability, and that cultural, educational, and motivational factors can affect scores. Critics say the book treated IQ as a fixed biological measure rather than a nuanced psychological construct. The authors used socially defined racial groups and statistical comparisons, leading readers to assume that biological differences were being inferred. Even though they stated the evidence was ambiguous, the blurred lines fueled claims that the book promoted genetic explanations of racial differences. Now, remember, intent, just because your intent was one thing, there was still an outcome based off of your work. So you still do have to kind of eat some of that because there's an outcome because of your work. And if you're not explicitly out there going against those lies, if you're not demeaning those lies loud, then you part of the problem too. Many of the studies cited in the bell curve were funded or connected to the Pioneer Fund, a controversial organization historically tied to eugenics and scientific racism. Critics argued that this association, coupled with the book's topic, lent support to racist agendas. So I just want to read that, give you a little more information on this bell curve. So let's continue our listening to Lex Friedman and Richard Heyer, and please hit that like button.
There's a genetic influence on this group difference.
So you said that this is one of the more controversial works.
I think it's the
ever in
most
science.
infamous paper in all of psychology, I would go on to say. Because in 1969, the genetic data was very skimpy on this question. Skimpy and controversial. It's always been controversial, but it was even skimpy and controversial. It's kind of a long story that I go into a little bit in more detail in the book Neuroscience of Intelligence. But to say he was vilified is an understatement. I mean, he couldn't talk at the American Psychological Association.
Let's get these
without bomb threats clearing the lecture hall. Campus security watched him all the time. They opened his mail. He had to retreat to a different address. This was one of the earliest kinds. This is before the internet and kind of internet social media mobs. But it was that intense. And I have written that overnight, after the publication of this article, all intelligence research became radioactive. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And then nobody was doing more research. And then the bell curve came along, and the Jensen controversy was dying down. I have stories that Jensen told me about his interaction with the Nixon White House on this issue. I mean, this was like a really big deal. It was some unbelievable stories, but he told me this, so I kind of believe these stories. Nonetheless,
25 years later.
So
all the silence, basically saying, this, nobody wants to do this kind of research. There's so much pressure, so much attack against this kind of research. And here's sort of a bold, stupid, crazy people that decide to dive right back in. And I wonder how much discussion there was. Do we include this chapter or not?
Murray has said they discussed it, and they felt they should include it, and they were very careful in the way they wrote it, which did them no good.
Well, yeah.
So as a matter of fact, when the bell curve came out, it was so controversial. I got a call from a television show called Nightline. It was with a broadcaster called Ted Koppel, who had this evening show, I think it was on late at night, talked about news. It was a straight up news thing.
Yeah. And
a producer called and asked if I would be on it to talk about the bell curve. And I said, she asked me what I thought about the bell.
If environment wasn't such a factor in determining and even helping to determine intelligence, our environments, Black environments in America, would not have been under such attack as long as they've been under attack. Black environments would not have been structured the way they've been structured. Like projects wouldn't have been structured the way they were. They wouldn't have made sure that low-income areas remain low-income. Because remember, we know that if America wanted to clean up these neighborhoods and pour into these neighborhoods, they could, but they understand how environment works. So if the majority of a population lives in undesired environments and environments that are under resourced, that have low access to opportunities, that have low educational attainment, all these things, especially if we're at war with our enemies, and they want to make sure that we remain a non-threat, they're not going to pour into us because they understand the environmental factors. Once again, you have school zones that are purposely structured to have low-income neighborhoods host schools that are underperformed and understaffed, while schools that are in well-to-do and flourishing neighborhoods are poured into. Why don't they pour into the communities, the predominantly Black communities with the underfunded schools? Why don't they make it a priority to even the playing field? Because they understand if you even the playing field, then these Blacks are going to disprove all the lies that we've been saying. Just what Nemesis just said. If you take corn A and corn B, plant corn A in rich, fertile soil, plant corn B in toxic soil, and both are genetically the same, corn A and corn B, corn A is in rich soil, corn B is in toxic soil, which corn you think going to have the best advantage? Which corn you think going to come out the best? I'm just saying, let's use logic. Let's use logic. How does a person learn? Let's start there. That's why I did the definition of learning earlier. How does a human being learn? Because that's how we can't even talk about intelligence until we talk about how a human being learns. And then once we learn and once we understand how a human being learns, that then we can go into measuring what they learned. That is intelligence, when we are measuring what you learned, but it still comes back to the application of the information that you have, which will be relevant to the environment or the occupation or the industry that you're in. So I'm not supposed to have the same type of intelligence as a social scientist as a mechanical engineer. Yeah, the book suggests that the gap is hardwired. The social programs like affirmative action or Head Start are wasteful, right? But remember, these programs, white people are always talking about are wasteful. They stay benefiting from them. They don't turn down. They don't turn down the benefits that they get from these programs either, huh? Blacks are the scapegoats here in this country. They need to blame everything negative on us. That's why they actually don't want us to leave. Hey, I'm just saying. Remember, but we were brought here to be their label too, so they really don't want us to leave. But
Bell Curve as a book. I said, look, it's a very good book. It talks about the role of intelligence in society. And she said, no, what do you think about the chapter on race? That's what we want you to talk about. I remember this conversation. I said, well,
what's going on?
She said, what would you say if you were on TV? And I said, well, what I would say is that it's not at all clear if there's any genetic component to intelligence.
Work today is broken every day.
Any differences, but if there were a strong genetic component, that would be a good thing. And, complete silence on the other end of the phone.
Yeah.
And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, if it's the more genetic any difference is, the more it's biological. And if it's biological, we can figure out how to fix it.
I see. That's interesting.
She said, would you say that on television?
Yes.
And I said, no. And so that was the end of that.
So that's for more like biology is within the reach of science, and the environment is a public policy, social, and all those kinds of things. It from your perspective, whichever one you think is more amenable to solutions in the short term is the one that excites you. But you saying that it's good, the truth of genetic differences, no matter what, between groups is a painful, harmful, potentially potentially dangerous thing. So let me ask you to this question: whether there's bell curve or any research on race differences, can that be used to increase the amount of racism in the world? Can that be used to increase the amount of hate in the world? Do you think about this kind of stuff?
I've thought about this a lot. Not as a scientist, but as a person. And my sense is there is such enormous reservoirs of hate and racism that have nothing to do with scientific knowledge.
If you infer based off of science, if you infer that one group is inferior based off genetics, if you infer that, if you even allow that idea to fester, whether you intended to be explicit about it or not, if that's even inferred and allowed to germinate and grow, and then it catches like wildfire and spread over, it's going to have a tremendous effect on people. And it's going to have a negative effect on the group that you are saying is inferior. It's going to have a tremendous negative effect on us Black people who are constantly being labeled as inferior, even by people who are supposed to be scientists, in which we've learned that, well, we got to research to make sure everything is correct, right? Because these people who are supposed to be these people are telling us that, hey, my research says that you are unintelligent, or your level of intelligence is inferior to mine based off my half-ass research. That ain't no real research. And then when that research is put through the rigor and put through the scientific method, it doesn't hold up. All right.
Of the data that speak against that no, I don't want to give racist groups a veto power over what scientists study. If you think that the differences, and by the way, virtually no one disagrees that there are differences in scores. It's all about what causes them and how to fix it. So if you think this is a cultural problem, then you must ask the problem, what do you want to change anything about the culture? Or are you okay with the culture because you don't feel it's appropriate to change a person's culture? So are you okay with
Nemesis? Jimmy can't read. Don't worry about Jimmy. He can't read. We established that early in the show that Jimmy can't read. So Jimmy struggles reading Cat in the Hat. So, you know.
That, and the fact that may lead to disadvantages in school achievement. It's a question. If you think it's environmental, what are the environmental parameters that can be fixed? I'll tell you one. Lead from gasoline in the atmosphere, lead in paint, lead in water. That's an environmental toxin that society has the means to eliminate, and they should.
Yeah, just to sort of trying to find some insight and conclusion to this very difficult topic. Is there been research on environment versus genetics, nature versus nurture, on this question of race differences?
There is not. No one wants to do this research. First of all, it's hard research to do. Second of all, it's a minefield. No one wants to spend their career on it. Tenured people don't want to do it, let alone students.
Because y'all muddied the water.
The way I talk about it. Before I tell you the way I talk about it, I want to say one more thing about Jensen. He was once asked by a journalist straight out, "Are you a racist?" His answer was very interesting. His answer was, "I've thought about that a lot, and I've concluded it doesn't matter." Now, I know what he meant by this.
The guts to say that. Wow.
He was a very unusual person. I think he had a touch of Asperger's syndrome, to tell you the truth. Because I saw him in many circumstances.
He would be canceled on Twitter immediately with that sentence.
Yeah. But what he meant was he had a hypothesis.
Yeah.
And with respect to group differences, he called it the default hypothesis. He said whatever factors affect individual intelligence are likely the same factors that affect group differences. It was the default, but it was a hypothesis. It should be tested. And if it turned out empirical tests didn't support the hypothesis, he was happy to move on to something else. He was absolutely committed to that scientific ideal, that it's an empirical question. We should look at it.
To Leo, skipping the buy one, get one means losing 50% of his savings potential. To Leo's mom.
And let's see what happens.
The scientific method cannot be racist from his perspective. It doesn't matter what the scientists, if they follow the scientific method, it doesn't matter what they believe.
And if they are biased and they consciously or unconsciously bias the data, other people will come along to replicate it. They will fail, and the process over time will work.
So let me push back on this idea, because psychology to me is full of gray areas. And what I've observed about psychology, even replication crisis aside, is that something about the media, something about journalism, something about the virality of ideas in the public sphere, they misinterpret. They take up things from studies, willfully or from ignorance, misinterpret findings and tell narratives around that. I personally believe, for me, I'm not saying that broadly about science, but for me, it's my responsibility to anticipate the ways in which findings will be misinterpreted. So I thought about this a lot because I published papers on semi-autonomous vehicles, and those, cars, people die in cars.
Paul, they
There's
crazy.
People that have written me letters saying, emails, nobody writes letters, I wish they did, that I have blood in my hands because of things that I would say, positive or negative. There's consequences. In the same way, when you're a researcher of intelligence, I'm sure you might get emails, or at least people might believe that a finding of your study is going to be used by a large number of people to increase the amount of hate in the world. I think there's some...
Well, to that point, you knew the information that they knew the information that they had in the book when they wrote the bell curve, when they published it. They understood the information and the language that they had in their book. That's why earlier I said your intent does not divorce you from the outcome. The outcome of the bell curve was used to negatively label Black people as an inferior group when it comes to intelligence based off our genetics and based off our race. And they knew the information that they had in the book, and they understood that the information that they had in the book could be used in a negative way, and they didn't clean it up. So they're not totally divorced from the finger wagging. They're not divorced from that, because once again, they knew the information that was in the book. They understood how this could cause controversy. They understood how this could cause debates. They understood how racists could take this information and run with it. They understood that. We're not gonna take any excuses or anything like that to divorce the authors of the bell curve from the outcomes of the bell curve. The authors of the bell curve are married to the outcomes of the bell curve. And they are married to the false claims and the false accusations that arose from the white supremacists that wrote the book, and from the Black people who kiss white supremacists' ass that wrote the book. All of those people are all in the same boat. You're not divorced from that. So,
responsibility on scientists, but for me, I think there's a great responsibility to anticipate the ways things will be misinterpreted. And there you have to, first of all, decide whether you want to say a thing at all, or do the study at all, publish the study at all. And two, the words with which you explain it. See, it's I find this on Twitter a lot actually, which is when I write a tweet, and I'm usually just doing so innocently, I'll write it. You know, it takes me like 5 seconds to write it, or whatever, 30 seconds to write it, and then I'll think, all right, I like close my eyes open and try to see how will the world interpret this? Like, what are the ways in which this will be misinterpreted? And I'll sometimes adjust that tweet to see, like, yeah, so in my mind it's clear, but that's because it's my mind from which this tweet came. But you have to think in a fresh mind that sees this, and it's spread across a large number of other minds, how will the interpretation morph? I mean, for a tweet, it's a silly thing. It doesn't matter. But for a scientific paper and study and finding, I think it matters. So I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts about on that. Because maybe for Jensen, the data is there. What do you want me to do? This is a scientific process has been carried out. If you think the data was polluted by bias, do other studies that reveal the bias. But the data is there, and I'm not a poet, I'm not a literary writer. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm just presenting you the data. What do you think on that spectrum? What's the role of a scientist?
The reason I do podcasts,
yeah,
the reason I write books for the public is to explain what I think the data mean and what I think the data don't mean. I don't do very much on Twitter other than to retweet references to papers.
Yes.
I don't think it's my role to explain these because they're complicated, they're nuanced. But when you decide not to do a scientific study or not to publish a result because you're afraid the result could be harmful or insensitive, it's not an unreasonable thought. And people will make different conclusions and decisions about that. I wrote about this. I'm the editor of a journal called Intelligence, which publishes scientific papers. Sometimes we publish papers on group differences. Those papers sometimes are controversial. These papers are written for a scientific audience. They're not written for the Twitter audience. I don't promote them very much on Twitter. But in a scientific paper, you have to now choose your words carefully also, because those papers are picked up by non-scientists, by writers of various kinds, and you have to be available to discuss what you're saying and what you're not saying. Sometimes you are successful at having a good conversation, like we are today, that doesn't start out pejorative. Other times I have been asked to participate in debates where my role would be to justify race science. Well, you can see, you start out, and that was a BBC request that I received.
I have so much, it's a love-hate relationship
So I'm gonna stop this there because of time, but what we've learned today is that despite information being put right into your face, people will take what they want, hear what they want, read what they want. People who lack the ability to think critically, to understand information critically, those people will take the information and do with it what they want despite the information. Like here, the people who wrote the bell curve, the people who are around the bell curve, and people who are not white supremacists are saying that the bell curve did not explicitly say that race and genetics cause a difference in intelligence, and yet we still got people in the comments, black people who claim to be black, saying that it does. Like, how do you, people like to argue with information, studies, facts, statistics and stuff, because people think they are smart, but environment matters, access matters, resource matters, pouring into matters. The quality of teacher, the quality of the education that you have matter. Health matters. All those things. There are various factors that go into intelligence. Genetics play a part, but genetics don't play the full part. It's not the full breadth of the outcome, or the full breadth that will determine the outcome of a person's intelligence. And intelligence is relative, depending on what you need to learn, where you need to learn, why you need to learn, and how you apply what you learn. Hey, they're trying to tell us that intelligence, people in the comments are trying to tell us that, well, Jimmy, let me just say, Jimmy is trying to tell us that intelligence is simply the collection of information. If you simply collect information, you're intelligent. Damn, understanding the information, damn, being able to apply the information, then you're intelligent. So that lets us know that this white supremacist information, this white supremacist rhetoric, it is spread, it is believed, it is internalized, it is utilized even by black people who refuse to think. Like, we refuse to think. We think that what white people tell us about us is true. We believe that what white supremacists tell us about us is true. Genetics determine intelligence. Wow. If you think genetics is the determining factor in a person's intelligence, that lets me know right there that you don't understand how people learn. You don't understand what learning is. You don't understand what knowledge is. You don't understand what intelligence is. You don't understand what information is. It's a process. Once again, let me go back to this process. Where is that? Through this process of what intelligence is and what learning is. It says, what is intelligence? Intelligence is the capacity to learn from experience, reason and solve problems, adapt to new situations, understand complex ideas, and apply knowledge effectively in real-world context. Once again, learn from experience, gather information, reason and solve problems, adapt to new situations, understand complex ideas, and apply knowledge effectively in real-world context. And this definition comes from mainstream psychology, not something I made up. Intelligence is not a single thing. It's not fixed. It's not independent of context. Intelligence is relative. And anybody that tries to tell you otherwise don't know what they're talking about, and they may not be intelligent. People are showing how intelligent they are when they talk about intelligence, or they think they're talking about intelligence. They're showing you where they are. They're showing you what's on their mind and how it goes. But a lot of the root of this comes from white supremacist rhetoric. White supremacist rhetoric. White people who went out and wrote and said and stood on their square saying that they were more intelligent than us because of the genetic differences and all those things. I guarantee you, you take a person from every race, every ethnic background, you give them all the same opportunities, access, and resources. I guarantee you, the only thing that will hold them back is personal will. It's personal give a damn. That's the only thing that will hold them back. Black people, we're not inferior to anybody on this earth. We're not inferior to anybody. That's why people at the end of the day, it's about power. White supremacists understand positions of power more than anything else. And they understand how to use their power. They understand how to use their influence. They understand how to use their media. They understand how to use the lies, the narratives, and all the tools that they have to remain on top. They understand how to use it. They understand us. They understand themselves. They understand power. Power gives you privilege. The privilege to cast out narratives, the privilege to make sure narratives stick, the privilege to deflect anything that will bring the truth about. Power does that. Access to power does that. Information, resources, access, all those things there. I don't give a damn what none of these other folks saying. People be out here lying because they're ignorant, or they lying because they want white people to pat them on the top of their heads and be accepted by a group of people who told you at the end of the day, if they was to ever build that all-white utopia, you Negroes are not allowed inside. And y'all still out here tap dancing for the white man who won't even let you in the utopia at the end of the day. So who's really intelligent? Right? If you spend all that time trying to keep us discombobulated, you spending all that time trying to keep us not unified, like all this discord, like all of this stuff that white folk do to keep us at a subservient level. Why do they do it? At the end of the day, why do they do it? Because there has to be an answer to it. They don't do it just to do it. It's a specific reason. To eliminate competition. They understand our potential and they do it to eliminate competition. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Jimmy, you think you educating? My brother, you don't even understand what intelligence is. Jimmy, if I was you, my advice to you is to never go out in public again and talk in public again until you reconcile with the fact that you have no idea what you're talking about. The people who wrote the bell curve don't even agree with you. Whites are more successful because of Negroes like you, Jimmy. Because of meritorious manumission Negroes like you. But I gave you the example. I gave you the answer. Once again, Jimmy, I know you slow. I know you was in ESE classes. I know you didn't change schools. I know you had to wear a helmet in school, so I'm gonna help you out. It's called something called slavery. When you enslave a group of people for 400 to 500 years, 400 years, you enslave a group of people, and then you get an economic advantage within that. And then after slavery ends, there's something called sharecropping, which continues the economic advantage. And then when Black people do build institutions, you destroy them. That even furthers your economic advantage. I know you slow, Jimmy. I know you don't know how to read. I know you don't. But that's how white people get that advantage. It's called being destructive. It's called slavery. It's called other people's work. It's called other people's efforts. It's also called stealing other people's accomplishments and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't make whites more successful. It means whites are better at being terrorists. Doesn't make them smarter, doesn't make all that. And it depends on how you define success. If you think that success is being the best terrorist, then yes. Or if you think that success is being the greatest human and having humanity, then no. But on the terrorism level, yes. Human level, no. But hey, that's how we do it. But anyway, I'm tired of talking and I'm tired of teaching. And I got to get something in my belly and go hit the gym. And it's cold as hell outside. I got some things to do, but I appreciate you all. This was a great 2 hours building with you all, debunking these lies and, you know, taking the shit on Jimmy and all these other people. Yeah. So remember, we are critical thinkers over here. We don't get caught up in our feelings, and we recognize when we come across information and we utilize information, and we understand what intelligence really is. It's the application of the information that you receive. And if you don't apply the information, how do we know you're intelligent? Yeah, all right. But anyway, man, y'all stay black, y'all stay proud, y'all continue to go out every day and improve yourselves. Continue to do something every day to make yourself better. Continue to do something every day to make your community better. Continue to do something every day to make your city better. Continue to do something every day to make your family better. If you're not doing something every day to improve yourself or the people around you, then you're wasting your time, and you might as well lay down and let the white supremacists win. It's gonna take us to make sure that we straight, because ain't nobody gonna come save us. That's why we do what we do, when we do, how we do what we do up here on this channel. I love you all. Please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share. Ways to support is in the description. My website is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. I love you all. Stay black, stay proud, and continue to do what you do. Jimmy, come over here, because Jimmy acting like that. Jimmy over there writing down notes and stuff. And Jimmy probably Troy from last time too. He probably changed his name to Jimmy, but he come back to learn. Anybody who stay around for 2 hours for something that they say is wrong and crazy, something wrong with them. So I see y'all next time. Hey, Jimmy, Tuesday at 9 p.m. Remember, my next OTSOG live Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Jimmy, you be there Tuesday night at 9. We'll see you. Y'all have a great Saturday. Please stay warm, stay safe. If you don't have to go outside, don't go outside, especially if you're in places that are heavily snowed in and all those things there. I love you all, and I see y'all on Tuesday. Peace out.